All right, let's get right into it. In a world where a single data breach can literally cost millions of dollars, we're unpacking a standard that is absolutely foundational to modern business. But honestly, it's often totally misunderstood. We are talking about ISO/IEC 27001, specifically the 2022 third edition. Now, I know looking at a 19-page international standard on information security might sound a bit dry at first glance. But in this explainer, we are going to transform that dense text into a clear, actionable blueprint. We're going to build an organizational fortress together.
Okay, let's dive into this. Right there in the very first section of the document, the introduction sets the tone with a pretty powerful statement. It says, the adoption of an information security management system is a strategic decision for an organization. Think about that for a second. This standard isn't just a quick IT checklist or a technical manual meant to be dusted off in the basement server room. No way. It is a vital C-suite priority. The needs, objectives, and the very structure of your business dictate how this system is built, and leadership absolutely has to drive it from the top down. So that brings us to the core definition. What exactly are we building here? Well, we are building an information security management system, or an ISMS for short. Its primary job is to preserve three critical things: the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of information. This is famously known as the CIA triad, and it is the beating heart of the entire standard. Every single control, policy, and audit we're going to discuss today anchors right back to preserving this triad by applying a rigorous risk management process. Here is our roadmap for the day. 1. The Information Security Foundation. 2. Leadership and planning. 3. Support and operations. 4. Evaluating and improving. And 5. The Annex A Toolkit. We'll be looking at all of these through the lens of the continuous Plan, Do, Check, Act cycle.
First up, Section 1, the Information Security Foundation. This is all about understanding context and scope.
Look, before you can secure anything, you need to understand exactly what you are securing and why, right? You have to establish the context of your organizational fortress before you lay a single brick. Think of these Clause 4 requirements as vital foundational questions you must ask about your own business. What are the internal and external issues affecting your security? Who are the interested parties? We're talking regulators, vital cloud partners, maybe your enterprise clients, and what are their legal or contractual requirements? Finally, you take all of that to determine the boundaries and applicability of your ISMS. You literally have to draw a definitive, documented scope around what is being protected.
Moving right along to Section 2, Leadership and Planning. Welcome to the plan phase. With our foundation poured, this is where high-level organizational strategy directly meets risk management. Clause 5 mandates that top management must demonstrate active leadership. As we said, security cannot just be tossed over the fence to the IT department. Top management is fully responsible for ensuring the information security policy aligns with the strategic direction of the business. They have to integrate these requirements into core business processes, ensure the budget and resources are actually available, not just promised, and actively promote a culture of continual improvement.
So let's see how this builds into actual planning. Clause 6 introduces a crucial sequence: risk assessment and risk treatment. It's kind of like a giant puzzle. First, you identify the risks to that CIA triad we talked about earlier. Second, you analyze the potential consequences if those risks actually materialize, along with their realistic likelihood. Third, you evaluate and prioritize them. And fourth, you select the appropriate controls to treat those risks. It is a highly logical, step-by-step process that maps your abstract vulnerabilities directly to actionable treatments. This whole process culminates in what's called a formal statement of applicability.
All right, Section 3, Support and Operations. It's time for the do phase.
Okay, so we've assessed our risks and formulated a great risk treatment plan. Now it's time to roll up our sleeves and put that carefully crafted plan into action. But before we execute, Clause 7 drops a great reminder. An ISMS is fundamentally run by human beings. A system only works if the people running it are supported. This means providing the right resources, ensuring your personnel are actually competent through education or training, and building deep organizational awareness of the security policy. It also includes strict control of documented information, making absolutely sure your critical documents are protected from being tampered with, and that they're available right when and where they are needed. Now, what's really interesting here is how Clause 8 splits operational execution into two ongoing realities. On the one hand, we have risk assessment. This is absolutely not a one-and-done deal. The standard requires you to perform assessments at planned intervals or whenever significant changes happen in the business. On the other hand, we have risk treatment, which is the actual physical implementation of your plan. It highlights the very distinct difference between continually hunting for your vulnerabilities and actively fixing them. So, we've planned our defenses, we've allocated our resources, and we've put our risk treatments into operation. But that leads us to an incredibly important question. How do we measure our security success? Seriously, how do we know the fortress we just built is actually keeping the threats out? Take a second to think about how your own organization holds its security measures accountable.
Which brings us to Section 4, evaluating and improving. These are the check and act phases.
You can't just build an ISMS and walk away. You have to relentlessly evaluate its performance and adapt to reality. Clause 9 lays out some pretty rigorous checking mechanisms. An organization must monitor, measure, and analyze its security processes to produce valid, comparable results. Basically, show me the data. Furthermore, you have to conduct objective internal audits at planned intervals. And finally, top management has to step back into the picture to conduct formal management reviews, looking at those audit results, feedback, and risk statuses to ensure the ISMS is actually achieving what it set out to do.
Now, when those audits inevitably uncover issues, and let's be real, they always do, Clause 10 dictates how we improve. Notice the contrast here. Reacting to a nonconformity just means taking immediate action to control it and deal with the consequences. It's like plugging a leak in a boat. But the standard demands more than that. It demands corrective action. You must evaluate the need to eliminate the underlying root causes of the nonconformity so it never, ever happens again. It's the difference between applying a quick bandage and performing systematic, continuous improvement.
Finally, Section 5, the Annex A Toolkit, deploying information security controls.
We've reached the part of the standard that turns theory into tangible defense. If the main clauses are the architectural blueprints for a security fortress, Annex A, well, that's your tactical toolkit used to actually build the walls, the gates, and the moats. It acts as a normative reference containing a huge, comprehensive list of potential controls you use during your risk treatment phase. The 2022 edition neatly groups these controls into 4 buckets to address every single angle of risk: organizational, people, physical, and technological. To ground these abstract categories in reality, let's look at a quick, tangible taste of the specific controls found within Annex A. Under organizational controls, you have things like gathering threat intelligence. Under physical, you have clear desk and clear screen policies. So yep, no more passwords written on sticky notes hidden under your keyboard. And under technological, you have advanced requirements like secure coding principles and data leakage prevention measures. The standard forces you to evaluate all of these to ensure absolutely no necessary control is overlooked. By combining the continuous improvement loop of the main clauses with the highly comprehensive controls of Annex A, ISO/ISO 27001 provides an incredibly robust framework. But remember what we said at the start, the adoption of this system is a strategic, ongoing decision. Security threats literally never stop evolving. They are changing every day. So I'll leave you with this. Is your information security management system actually ready to evolve with them? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep evaluating, keep improving, and I'll catch you in the next one.